28th as that of Mr. Seaga's entry into the world and his departure from this world, structured just like he did everything else. We recommit ourselves to the application of his wisdom and his fortitude to our task of building back better and together. May God bless you all, and thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much, Minister Grange. And now with his reflections on Mr. Seaga, please welcome Dr. the Most Honourable Andrew Holness, the Prime Minister.
Good morning. Please, good morning, everyone. Good morning. Carla, it's good to see you. We gather at the National Heroes Park in reverence and gratitude to honor the memory of the Most Honourable Edward Phillip George Seaga, former Prime Minister of Jamaica, patriot, parliamentarian, scholar, cultural custodian, institution builder, and a servant of the people of Jamaica. Today marks the 96th anniversary of his birth. It is fitting that we come not only with flowers, but with reflections. A floral tribute is a simple act, but it carries deep meaning. It reminds us that a nation must pause to remember who labored before us, those who gave shape to public life, those who through conviction and sacrifice helped to build the Jamaica we now inherit. Edward Seaga was one such man. He belonged to a generation of leaders who entered public life when Jamaica was still defining itself. Independence was not yet complete in spirit or structure. The institutions of nationhood had to be imagined, designed, tested, and defended. There were no easy templates. There was no finished road. There was only hard work of a country to build. One law, one agency, one policy, one community, one generation at a time. Mr. Seaga understood that independence had to be forged. He understood that sovereignty required institutions that could endure. It required people trained for work and citizenship. It required a culture strong enough to withstand shocks, recover, and grow even faster. It required discipline in government, confidence in enterprise, order in public life, and a clear sense of national purpose. That was the core of Edward Seaga's public philosophy. He believed that Jamaica could not drift into greatness. It had to be organized for greatness. His mind was unusually ordered. He approached public problems with method and seriousness. He studied before he acted and spoke. He listened, recorded, compared, and designed. He had a rare capacity to see the connections between the immediate and the long term, between the condition of a community and the architecture of the state, between culture and economic confidence, between youth training and national productivity, between order and opportunity. This is why his work remains visible long after his time in office. But today, I want to reflect not only on what Edward Seaga built, but on the temperament he brought to national service. He took public life seriously. He believed politics was not a theater for applause, but an instrument for national development. He could be combative because he cared deeply about ideas. He could be exacting because he believed that details mattered. He could be firm because he knew that leadership sometimes required decisions that were difficult, unpopular, and misunderstood in the moment. Yet beneath that firmness was a deep and abiding commitment to Jamaica's people, especially those whose lives were marked by poverty, exclusion, and limited opportunity. His long representation of West Kingston was central to his career. It shaped his understanding of the Jamaican state. It kept him grounded in the daily realities of working people. It reminded him that national development could not be measured only in macroeconomic indicators or major public works. It had to be measured in whether young people found a skill, whether families found shelter, whether communities found dignity, whether ordinary Jamaicans felt that the country had a place for them. He saw culture in the same way. For Edward Seaga, Jamaican culture was not decoration, nor was it something to be brought out only for festivals and ceremonies. It was the living evidence of who we are. He studied it, he preserved it, promoted it, and defended it. He understood that a people who do not value their own culture will always be tempted to borrow their sense of worth from somewhere else. In that respect, he stood ahead of his time, long before the world fully understood the global power of Jamaican music, spirituality, performance, and popular expressions. Edward Seaga understood that Jamaica's cultural identity was a national asset. He understood that our creativity was not marginal to our development. It was central to the confidence of our people. This is a lesson we must continue to carry forward. Today, as Jamaica pursues growth, investment, security, productivity, and resilience, we must never separate material development from cultural confidence. We must build roads, houses, schools, hospitals, digital systems, and stronger communities. But we must also build pride, discipline, belonging, excellence. That is our culture. Edward Seaga's life reminds us that leadership must be anchored in continuity. Each generation inherits unfinished work. Each generation must correct, improve, expand, and oftentimes rebuild. But no generation begins from nothing. We stand on the foundation laid by others. And that is why remembrance matters. To remember Edward Seaga properly is not to freeze him in history. It is to study the seriousness with which he approached Jamaica's future. It is to recognize the value of institutions. It is to defend standards, standards, standards in public life. Today, there is a calculated assault on the standards of public life, a calculated assault on the conventions that have carried this nation for decades. Calculated. to remember Mr. Seaga is to insist that policy must have structure, that implementation and efficiency and effectiveness matters. And that as a people, we must expect outcomes and performance must be measured. We are not just here to write a policy, articulate it eloquently, appeal to you emotionally, that we care about you, but we don't act to materialize the care, to bring the care to reality. Unfortunately, there is a part of our culture that only holds you accountable for how well you articulate and what you have embedded in policy documents, but you are not held to account for the results that you actually deliver to make the lives of the people of Jamaica better. Execution matters. And that is what Mr. Seaga stood for. In every taxonomy of leadership, you have leaders who conceive things very well. They live in their minds. You have leaders who can make you feel very good. They live in their hearts. And you have leaders who are consummate. They conceptualize, they mobilize, meaning they get people emotionally involved in the journey and the vision and the mission. But these leaders live in their hands. They are the doers. They are not the critics. They are not the ones who tear down everything. These are the ones who build, who take one brick and put it on top of another and leave the lasting legacies for generations. I come from that school. It also recognizes that public service is a long road. Mr. Seaga served in Parliament for more than 4 decades. He served in government, he served in opposition, he served in government, and he served in opposition. He knew victory and he knew defeat. In the 70s, there was a popular sports program. I believe it would be on ABC TV in the US. And they usually say this phrase, the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. And I can tell you, I have seen him experiencing the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. But he never lost faith with the Jamaican people, never lost faith in the vision. He knew praise and he knew criticism. But as a man, he was never fazed by either of them. And I believe I may have gotten a touch of that as well. Yet he remained committed to Jamaica's public life with a consistency that deserves our respect. That example is important for all of us who now carry responsibility. In public life, one must learn to think beyond today's headlines. Let me repeat that. In politics, one must learn to think beyond today's headlines. I learned that very early in my political life, observing Edward Phillip George Seaga. There are many politicians today who are doing it for the headlines. No, we don't do it for the headlines. We do it for the love, not for the likes. One must act for results that may only be fully appreciated years after. And that's very difficult for modern politics because everyone wants to see it now. So gone are the days when wise and well thought out decisions are praised. You never spend the money today, because the people who are invested that way are short-term thinkers. I know it makes a lot of people uncomfortable when I speak this way, but these are the difficult conversations we need to have about ourselves that Mr. Seaga tried to have with the people of Jamaica. That there are many short-term thinkers who have hijacked our politics and make us as a people think in very myopic ways. And what we can say about Mr. Seaga is that he had a long-term vision. One must be prepared to plant trees under whose shade others will sit. Mr. Seaga planted many trees under which he will not sit, but he can rest in peace that the people of Jamaica will benefit from the fruits and the shade. As Prime Minister, I'm conscious of the duty to build with the same seriousness and thoughtfulness to strengthen what works, reform what is outdated, and create new institutions equal to the challenge of our time. That is how we honor legacy. We honor Edward Seaga when we invest in young people and prepare them for productive lives. We honor him when we protect Jamaican culture and treat it as a source of national strength. We honor him when we protect Jamaican culture and not try to exploit it for political advantage. We honor him when we build communities of order, opportunity, and dignity. We honor him when we insist that government must be purposeful, competent, and accountable. We honor him when we believe, as he believed, that Jamaica is capable of more. May his memory continue to instruct us. May his example continue to challenge us. I should announce at this point the Minister of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport graciously allowed me to make the announcement that the commissioning of the shrine of the Most Honourable Edward Phillip George Seaga, which will be here where he is buried in the National Heroes Park, that process has begun. This week appears to have been the week of legacy announcements. And I will have a few more words to say, including to my own supporters, about decisions we make regarding honoring our leaders. Such decisions must not be made in partisan ways. We must always value our leaders and their contributions. We must as well seek to realize their visions. I stand here on the shoulders of all the leaders who have gone before me. The vision that I have is seen through their eyes as well. I consider myself to be, in many ways, a product of all of them. I have read and studied and been close to a number of them. And it would be strange if there was not an impact. And therefore, I see myself as having a duty, a responsibility to ensure that whatever was in their heads or in their hearts is materialized through my hands. So none of our leaders should have any fear that their legacy will not be respected by my leadership. Because that's how you build a nation. And that is the objective, to build a strong nation. That even those who are not in power can share in the prosperity, in the growth, and the dignity with equal claim and respect. That's what we are building. And that has to define our government and our governance. So, may Jamaica, that he served with such conviction, continue to rise stronger, more confident, more productive, and more united. God bless you, and thank you.
Thank you, Prime Minister. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for another tribute, this time in dance. We invite the Tivoli Dance Troupe, who will perform Shomer. Please welcome them.